And Stewart with the Stewart Group Real Estate at eXp Realty, and we're talking about the Portland real estate market. We're at the end of June of 2023, and it's time to break down what we've been through so far this year, where we're at now, and where we think things are headed. Now, I like to give data in a very edible fashion. I don't want to give you a bunch of numbers you can't interpret. So let's start off with what happened over the last 6 months in 2023. We actually had a very rapid fire start at the beginning of this year. We suspected this could happen, even though we ended 2022 with a very sluggish market. Those interest rates went way up. And as we turned the corner, the buyer demand started to tick up. That actually happens every January. The buyers get done with the holidays and they're ready to get out buying, but where's the inventory? Well, the inventory is slow to get on the market. So people who took advantage of getting on the market at January, February really saw that quick reaction in the market of getting an offer. Then we sort of built up inventory, and our spring was actually very springy. It was very busy. We had multiple offers on a lot of inventory, not all, but some. Houses got gobbled up, and interest rates were staying in the sixes range, which is still considered high to our historical standards of the last decade, but still, we saw a lot of good activity. Interestingly enough, through April and May, that inventory in the Portland metro area stayed around 1.9 months of inventory, almost consecutively month over month. It will be interesting to see where the inventory is at for the next month, which we should be getting in the next couple weeks. That being said, we are still falling short of inventory in the Portland metro area. Some areas more than others. So you're going to see some areas where there's literally just very few houses that come on the market. And then there's some areas where actually inventory will sit stagnant for quite some time. It is a very pivotal to price accordingly, to have your condition ready, especially if you're in one of those pocket areas of Portland that the inventory sits a little bit longer and people bypass houses unless they're picture perfect. Now let's keep talking about interest rates because it is front and center for our market, especially moving forward. We saw the interest rates tick up in May. They crept up to 7. Now we're sitting between 7 and 7.25, depending on the day of the week. And that is a high interest rate for, our market. It makes it a little bit more unobtainable for a lot of buyers. The saving grace in all this is the low inventory. If we didn't have low inventory, we'd see a lot more houses sit on the market and not get gobbled up. Now, what's going to be interesting is we're in the thick of the summer now, and usually summer has its own tempo. It's not super fast, it's not super slow, but we see a lot more distraction in the marketplace with the good weather, people taking vacations, getting out of school, graduations, all those things. But people still are buying and they're still out there. It's just a different pace. And now that those interest rates have ticked up to 7, and Jerome Powell made it very clear in his last meeting that they're going to look at increasing interest rates another 2 to 4 times this year, which could mean the back half of this year could look very different than the front half of this year. It actually might kind of feel similar to last year when we started off the year kind of strong and then interest rates kind of went up and up and up all the way to the end of the year, and we had a slow end of the year. So what's interesting about what's happening though is we have this dichotomy between low inventory, meaning a lot of people are sitting in really low interest rates, not wanting to move unless they have to, and high interest rates. And you would think that that would cause maybe the market to be crashing or slowing down, but it's actually having this odd effect where prices are we're still seeing a climb up in prices. It's not double digit. It's not what we saw in 2020, 2021, and even early 2022. But when you have low inventory and high demand, regardless of the interest rates, we're still seeing prices sustain, maintain, and in some parts of Portland going up. Now, that is good news for sellers. It's good because we still don't have a lot of competition for you to compete with. We still have buyer demand out there. But what it does mean is you have to come to market with a pretty picture. If we're not coming to market with a pretty picture, if we've got repairs, we've got conditional issue, we're outdated, we've got all these things going on, it will make it tougher to sell your home or to get top dollar. So it is really important to strategize before you hit the market. What is the most important things you need to do to get your home ready to be able to sell in this market? Because sellers are selling in this market regardless, but it's how you come to market, how you strategize, how you plan, prep, and of course, ultimately, pricing matters more than ever. What the back half of the year looks like, we don't truly know until we're moving through it. But I want to give you some of my predictions of what's going to happen. I think that we're going to see the interest rates stay level for the better part of the summer. I don't think they're going to touch the increasing of the basis points until we get closer to fall and until they get more data as to whether inflation is truly coming down, or are we needing to get those interest rates up in order for them to continue to, depress down that inflation number. I also think it's possible that the fall and the winter could be an interesting place, because if they in fact take those interest rates up and we get anywhere near 8% or 7.5%, we will feel it instantly in the market. It's like everything kind of puts the brakes on, because these interest rates really are affecting the affordability of houses. Now, we are seeing prices going up, but the one thing that will eventually cool off pricing increases is those interest rates. And we saw it last year when those interest rates hit 7%, 7.25%, 7.5%. In fact, we got really close to 8% at the end of last year. The market almost just completely fizzled out, and it was very sluggish. So if you actually looked at comps from the end of last year, it's interesting to watch a lot more houses sit on the market. Those same houses, had they come on the market in January, February, March of this year, they would have been probably sold. So, those interest rates, if they start peaking higher than they are now, there will definitely be you'll feel it in the marketplace. And we're watching that. Now, the good news is we do have sales still happening no matter what happens with those interest rates. There are people still moving into Portland or renting that absolutely want and need to buy. Rental market is another topic, but essentially a lot of people renting are feeling the pain in the landlords taking the rents up. And many of these rentals that are out here are at the level at which they would already be paying for a single family home or owning their own property. So for a lot of buyers, they're looking at it going, well, I'm kind of damned if I do and I'm damned if I don't. So I got to make a decision. So they're scrapping up their down payment funds. Now, one thing we're seeing a lot of in this market is buyers asking for more concessions. What is concessions? What does that look like? When they bring you an offer, they might bring you an offer at full price or around your asking price, but they may be asking for closing cost assistance. What does that look like? Well, we call it buy downs, buying down the interest rate so it's not quite as tough on their payments, but it costs a lot of money to do a buy down in addition to all your other closing costs, all the closing costs that are standard for any buyer that's out here. So what they do is they ask for a lot more concessions and closing costs from the seller to be able to move forward in a sale. So if you're on the market and you see a buyer coming forward, it's not uncommon to see a buyer asking for some level of concessions. Now, are we seeing it in all cases? No. There's still many, many homes that are on the market that are what we call cream puffs or move-in ready, or they're just in a hot area of town that the buyer is not going to request any concessions because they don't want to risk jeopardizing not getting their offer accepted. But be prepared if you get on the market that the market is becoming more and more expensive for buyers to obtain loans and get into houses. So we are seeing a lot more negotiations happening with buyers. In addition to that is repairs. In the years of 2020, 2021, even early 2022, we were seeing a lot of people not ask for any repairs. Well, that has not been the case this year. We're back to negotiating home inspection repairs. If you're interested in learning more about what type of repairs people are focused on, hit me up. But it typically centers around structural or safety issues. So this is kind of what we're facing in the marketplace. It's still a good market. I know you hear that a lot from real estate agents because it sounds like we're on repeat for what we are telling you with the market. But in all seriousness, when it comes down to selling in this market or buying, I'm telling most of my clients, I want to be a buyer this year. I would love to pick up an investment property, because the one thing I've seen through thick and thin over the years is that Portland is not making houses fast enough. That is the moral of the story in Portland. Can't speak for other parts of the country, but here in Portland, we are not building new construction fast enough. We don't have a lot of land for sale in most inner cities. And so builders try to find, a lot here, a lot there to build on. But truthfully, the value of Portland properties, in my opinion, and in many of my colleagues' opinion, is that we are not going to see a slowdown to the point where prices start to retract. We're going to see prices continue to evolve upward because frankly, we just don't have enough inventory for the population that's growing and coming into this area. So whether we like it or not, that's what's going on. And that is your midway through the year real estate market update for Portland. I'd love to hear your thoughts and comments. So hit me up. Let's chat.